All right, so now that we have a game plan in place, let's go ahead and use that game plan to do some examples. So to add and subtract, right, we have the denominators are different. So the first thing we need to do is find the LCD. Well, in this case, right, everything's already factored. So we essentially just need to multiply the two that I have. All right, so that gives us x minus 2 and x plus 1. Let me change the as our LCD. So coming to our work, right, what we need to do is we need to multiply each fraction by the part of the LCD that is missing. Oops. So for the first part, what's missing is the x plus 1. And for the second part, what's missing is the x minus 2. So we'll multiply top and bottom to build those equivalent fractions, all right? And so now that I have the same LCD, right, what we have here is x minus 2, x plus 1, and we have 2 times x plus 1 in the numerator, excuse me. And then over here we have 3 times x minus 2 in the numerator, and x minus 2 and x plus 1. All right, and I know the work gets a little lengthy, so as long as you've clarified what the LCD is for the problem, I'm actually okay, right? Because the idea is now that we have the same denominator, we keep that denominator and basically, in this case, subtract my numerators. And so what I mean by is if you clearly identified your LCD, just to save yourself some time in terms of work, I'm okay with you just writing LCD as part of that work. So keep continuing on, right? Upstairs, what I need to do is multiply out, do some distribution. So we get 2x plus 2 minus 3x plus 6 all over our LCD. And then at this stage, we'll combine like terms. Looks like I get a negative x plus 8 all over my LCD. So in this case, the answer is negative x plus 8 all over x minus 2 and x plus 1. And in this case, I know that I'm simplified because the factor of negative x plus 8 doesn't share any common factors with x minus 2 and x plus 1. So this is our final answer. All right, so that's basically the game plan. When I have different denominators, right, we're going to find our LCD, right, by using our little trick to find it. In this case, everything was already factored, so I just need to multiply the two that I have. Multiply by 1, right, in order to create an equivalent fraction. And then once I have that equivalent fraction, right, with the same denominator, the rule is we keep the denominator, add, subtract the numerators. In this case, we subtract it and combine like terms and you're finished. All right, so that is the first one. For the second one, it's a little more challenging because when I look at it, right, my denominators are different and they're a little more complicated. So factoring, right, I believe this factors is x plus 3, x minus 2, and then we're adding, we got the difference of squares here, x minus 3, x plus 3. So building my LCD here, right, we'll start off with one of the LCDs, so one of the denominators, so x plus 3 and x minus 2 is definitely part of the LCD. Looking at the next one, right, the x plus 3 is already accounted for. What's missing is the x minus 3. So there is the LCD. So coming back over here, right, what I need to do, right, is what's missing for one of these is the first one is missing the factor of x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by what's missing. And the second one, the factor that's missing is the x minus 2. So we'll factor the top and the bottom by x minus 2. So this basically gives us the same denominator. I'm going to cut to the chase. We got the LCD, and I have the numerator x times x minus 3 plus my other numerator, which is 1 times x minus 2. All right, and so simplifying upstairs, we have an x squared, minus 3x plus x minus 2. This is all over the LCD. And then combining like terms, let me bring it a little higher. We have x squared minus 2x minus 2 all over my LCD. So let me go ahead and, since I'm getting closer to my official answer, right, I believe that's the answer. Last but not least, what we need to do is make sure there's no factors upstairs that divide out with any of the factors downstairs. But when I look at this, right, this does not factor, right? So basically this means we are finished, right? Since the top doesn't factor, it's definitely not going to have any common factors that we have below. So you'll notice, let me move this down. The problem's different, but the pattern remains the same, right? Find the LCD, given the, the denominators that we have, multiply by some form of 1, right, so that we build an equivalent fraction. Once I have that equivalent fraction, right, the rule is we keep the denominator, and in this case, add the numerators that I have. Expand out, right, multiply out, combine like terms, and then just to make sure it's lowest terms, and in this case, it is. There's nothing more to do. All right, so, because, yeah, this doesn't factor. I'm looking at it, and I don't see a factorization. So let's do one more. Right, so in this case, let me kind of keep that there. Again, we'll begin by factoring the denominators. That way I can start to build my, my LCD. So in both cases, let's see, in this one, I think we need an x times an x. I believe a plus 4 and a minus 2 will work. Over here, it looks like we have an x minus 2 and an x plus 1 that's going to work. Let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, so my LCD for this particular problem is we'll start off with, let's say, this denominator. So we have x plus 4 and x minus 2. Going to the other one, the x minus 2 is already accounted for. What's missing is the x plus 1. So there's my LCD that I've got to work with. So the next step is we're going to multiply by some form of 1 by what's to create an equivalent fraction. So in this case, what's missing is x plus 1. So I'll multiply upstairs and downstairs by it. Over here, what's missing is the x plus 4. Okay, so now that I have the same denominator, right, in order to subtract, I keep that denominator and I basically take my numerator and subtract my numerator that I have. All right, so next step is to expand this out, multiply it out, so we get x squared plus x. Looks like minus 2x minus 8. Combine like terms. In this case, we end up with x squared minus x. Looks like minus 8 all over my LCD, which is x plus 4, x minus 2, and oops, let me write that a little better. Still getting used to writing on an iPad, right? X plus 1 squared, or x plus 1. All right, I don't believe this factors. Again, if I kind of try to factor, looking at 1 and 8 and 4 and 2, and none of those combinations gives us -1. So I believe we're totally factored here, which means that is our final answer, since there's no common factors in the upstairs and the downstairs. So again, you see me using that pattern: factor the bottom, factor the denominators, right? Use those factorizations to help me build an LCD, right? Multiply by some form of 1, right, to create a common denominator. And then we're basically back to adding and subtraction fractions with common denominators, right? We keep the denominator, add, or in this case, subtract the numerators, expand, bring together, and then make sure there's no factors, which in this case, I think in all of them, I had numerators that didn't always factor. That's not always going to happen, as you'll see in some examples later on. But hopefully that gives you guys started and gives you an idea of how we're going to be adding rational expressions with the different denominators. It's basically the same stuff we've done when we had just numbers and the denominators are different. We basically built equivalent fractions, found the LCD, built equivalent fractions, and then added from there. All right, so I'll see you in some more videos coming soon. Make sure you guys practice all these skills.